Today's presentation and discussion are for information only and should not be considered as investment advice. All the opinions expressed by speakers are their own. Before we start, please change your screen name to your real name and program at Berkeley. Please mute yourself during the presentation. Thank you. So welcome to today's session. I'm Coco Key, founding member and president of BHBC, full-time MBA 02. BHBC, Berkeley Haas Blockchain and Crypto Interest Group, is the youngest official alumni affinity group at Berkeley Haas. I've posted the group's website and other links in the chat box for you to learn more about the group. What I want to add, which is not on the website, is BHBC is a community that welcomes everybody from Berkeley Haas and other schools at Berkeley. It's owned by the community. Let's build it together. This is BHBC's 6th event and the first for our infrastructure module. I'm delighted to have Mark Mee speak with us today. Mark is Director of Business Development at Near Foundation, a nonprofit focused on increasing the adoption and development of the Near protocol and its ecosystem. Near protocol is a certified climate-neutral proof-of-stake layer-1 blockchain designed for infinite scalability, security, and ease of user and developer onboarding. Prior to joining the Near Foundation, Mark managed a family office fund in Asia. He's a Berkeley Haas B.S.09 alum with Bachelor of Science degree. After Mark's presentation, I'll kick off the Q&A session and ask him some questions before opening the floor to the audience. Q&A session will not be recorded, so I encourage audience to raise hands and ask questions directly. Without further ado, let's welcome Mark. Mark, please.
Thank you, Coco. Hey guys, I wanted to give a self-intro, but sounds like she already did that for me. But again, to reiterate, yes, I was a class of 09 at Haas undergrad, so I was there for 4 years. It was loved the time there. I'm really happy to be back and to speak with you guys. And when Coco reached out, I definitely wanted to support not only Berkeley but Haas as well, and kind of get this going. And then some quick background. Yeah, so currently live in Asia. Been in Taiwan for about 7 years now. Originally from California, so moved. So it was a pretty big drastic change, but it's been a great experience, and happy to discuss that and kind of the journey as well, since we are on a college university platform here. So I think we're here today to talk about Near. So I prepped a kind of simple blockchain overview of Near. So let me talk a little bit about that. Let's see. Are you guys able to see my screen? Yeah, cool. All right, Near. So what is Near? So to kick it off, so Near is a layer 1 protocol. It's a sharded proof of stake layer 1 blockchain. And this slide kind of gives a simple point of kind of what we're trying to do, which is we're trying to remove every barrier for Web3 adoption, right? And how are we trying to do that? We're allowing to users or builders to build without limits, right? And I'll talk about more of these points later in these slides, but high level wise, build without limits, you can scale without limits. And in the end, it's explore without limits, which is more of the retail side. And so kind of going and comparing kind of looking at kind of what Near has done thus far. So theoretical kind of TPS is around 100,000, 1 to 2 seconds for finality, currently at 4 shards. In terms of accounts, we have 22 million, 240 million transactions, and around 320,000 weekly actives. And on the right side, I think this is what interested me and kind of got me to the attention kind of to join Near, was the fact that I wasn't aware that there was so much going on as well as developing within the ecosystem. 2,200 developers, close to 1,000 projects, a lot of DAOs, and it was the community that was very interesting and kind of interesting to me kind of when I was looking for kind of opportunities within the space and kind of wanting to jump into blockchain full time. So going to the foundation, so as Coco mentioned, it's a nonprofit. So kind of what is Near Foundation like? So Near Foundation itself is not the protocol itself, but our goal is to kind of raise awareness of NEAR, kind of support projects to build on NEAR, and kind of to provide a path to decentralization. Again, kind of to what the goal was, in one of the few slides earlier, the fact that, we're trying to onboard, as many users as possible into Web3, right, in the easiest way. Here's kind of the executive team, but so with that said, so controlling the whole ecosystem, or not controlling, managing and supporting the whole ecosystem, this kind of gives you an idea of kind of how the ecosystem is laid out. So obviously we have different verticals within it: DeFi, NFTs, marketplaces, gaming, Web2 to Web3, I think, is one of the big ones that we've done, kind of the big markets. SailGP and Sweatcoin are two very strong examples in which, you guys are able to see kind of the conversion, and then I can talk about that a little bit later as well. Within the ecosystem fund, so NEAR as a whole, we're pretty, I would say, focused on decentralization, and so which means that we do kind of separate whether it's regulatory reasons or whether it's because we're just very regulatory compliant and want to just make sure that we're not in full control of everything, is that we kind of separate things. So for example, for DeFi, the NEAR Foundation doesn't try to actually I wouldn't say it doesn't try to touch or kind of handle, and we kind of have a separate entity called Proximity that does that. Within funds, a lot of other chains kind of focus on investing and going on. For us, we do partner with a lot of ecosystem funds, and what that means is we are typically a large LP in these funds. And I wouldn't say these funds are NEAR only, but these funds are there to help and support kind of the NEAR ecosystem, right? So we do work closely with these funds. Regional hubs, I find that this is actually very interesting in the fact that we do kind of in a decentralized manner kind of reach out and grow the whole ecosystem. So most recently we added NEAR India and NEAR Korea, and these are teams in which are on the ground, local, speaking the local language, which I think adds a lot of value to projects building over there due to time zone, due to the language barriers, and kind of the support that they need, whether it's building communities or building, having some tech support or tech issues, or even kind of help just projects getting access. I would add that in addition to these actual regional hubs, we have over 100 communities, and communities are just like kind of the community we have here, where people interested in a certain topic and kind of just form a group and start building. It can be composed of NEAR entrepreneurs or project leads or people that are just interested in blockchain and want to learn more. Lastly are kind of some of the infra core tech stuff. So Pagoda, developing kind of the tech itself. We have a few other I guess scaling. Aurora is our EVM compatible chain, and then Calmero is kind of our enterprise aspect, so that it could be, I guess, private, as secure, and zero gas fees. So there's a lot of things developing, and I would not say it's all just developed by the NEAR Foundation, because it's not. Our goal here is to support the ecosystem, help them build, help them solve problems that the market's looking at, and kind of just growing and trying to onboard as many users, right, into Web3, because we find this fascinating. This kind of gives a global map of kind of what it looks like in terms of hubs, kind of communities, as well as kind of just, I guess, our ecosystem across, kind of what I talked about earlier. We have world-class backers. You probably are familiar with a lot of these large names here. I think it's been, so actually from the family office, we also invested kind of it's interesting because you're coming from an investor perspective and then now kind of working on the chain itself, but it's pretty interesting to kind of see how the support and interest that blockchain and crypto has had in the last few years. So why NEAR overall? So NEAR, I think these are the 4 main points that are pretty interesting about, flexible accounts, easy onboarding, developer friendly, and best-in-class sustainability, right? So what do these actually mean, and kind of how does that relate? So 1, flexible account. So, as you guys are probably familiar with other chains, NEAR's accounts, your wallet address is actually like an email address. So here it could be, alice.near or coco.near. And very intuitive, very simple in the fact Same things with the keys, in that it could be accessible with other ways, whether you can sign in with an email or Google Auth or things like that to make just the onboarding experience easier. For the namespaces, I find this pretty interesting too, as well as the fact that you guys could create, companies or projects can create solutions in which it could be, Coco, dot BHBC, and then you can kind of have a specific use case for under that, right? Kind of savings or things like that. So flexible accounts, I think, is very intuitive, similar to what we're used to in terms of email addresses, and just, I think I'm just intuitively kind of like that. For the onboarding part as well, I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with utilizing kind of MetaMask, and I think we're all very used to that right now. But I would say 2 years ago, when I was still learning, when I was playing, and switching chains, adding different assets, like it's not, I think you have to get used to it. And I think for the mass adoption of users to come on, it's just tough. So here, kind of on the left side, you kind of have for a near drop link, for example, very simple. It takes a few clicks. You create an account in terms of what you want the name to be, and then you guys could log in and sign in or save kind of the passphrases kind of how you want. So I think that's the whole point of kind of like making the process simple, as I don't think the mass wave of users into crypto or blockchain will be similar to us. I think it would be someone that would be a kind of less experienced or just doesn't understand as much. In terms of developer friendly, so native language to build on Near is Rust. And then, as I said earlier, we have an Aurora chain, which is EVM compatible. So thus it's utilizing Solidity. Additionally, a few months ago, we released a JavaScript SDK to allow developers to utilize a very friendly language that they're used to develop on Near as well. So we're trying to make this process easy, not only for users, as you saw in the last two slides, but actually for kind of developers. Because in the end, if there's nothing developing, no projects on, there's really no use cases, and thus makes it difficult for even users, even though if it's the most basic or simple experience, to have them kind of do anything on the chain, right? So in addition, I think something that's pretty interesting, the fact is Near has a built-in incentive for the developers on the platform to earn 30% of the transaction fees. The transaction fees are lower than normal, than what we're used to in other chains, but I think that's still something that's quite interesting. And this bottom part kind of highlights the support of, I have gotten comments on, the docs from techs, from projects saying, techs are well documented and it's been good to follow and it's very clear. So outside of just the languages, I think kind of that points, as well as the dev tools, as well as, support, right? Because I think we all need the support, and that's also the point of the regional hub that I spoke about earlier, in terms of support in your time zone as well as your local language. In terms of scalability, so, I think Near has been, if you talk to most of the projects, when I talk to their CTO, they always highlighted that they've always been, big supporters of Near. Me, myself, and I'm sure most of the people here aren't, we're Haas, so we're probably not tech background, but the tech CTOs typically always highlight the fact that they do like the tech, right? They think it's infinite scalability. So what that means is they're able to in theory kind of continuously build, and if there's more transactions and more utilization of the chain, you just add more shards and kind of grow on that. And basically, and sharding is kind of breaking down kind of the blockchain into different compartments to make it more efficient. So that's kind of what the scalability aspect comes in. And it's quite interesting because, talking with more of for example, yesterday I was talking to a tech BD and just kind of drilling him on understanding more of how this actually, how it would work and, how it would be implemented. So for Near, we actually implemented, we're on there, just completed the second phase. I think it's phase 0, then phase 1. And now we're kind of moving on to just kind of continuously kind of increase and build on this. We are a carbon neutral fund chain, which I think, especially when working with larger projects or publicly listed, I think this is a main point that they do want to support. So I think we are very focused on that as well. So after talking about why near, I think I want to talk more about the ecosystem and kind of what's, even though there was a slide earlier in terms of kind of infra, kind of highlight a few of these projects that we do have. So earlier we talked about Aurora. So this is the EVM compatible. This allows you to add it onto your MetaMask, allows you to kind of kind of transact. There's bridges between, I guess, near as well as other EVM compatible chains. Octopus is a dApp chain specific, kind of similar and the Rainbow Bridge right here, actually kind of what I was saying in terms of bridging across. And then Octopus is your dApp, your app specific, while Calamaro kind of has the more enterprise, whether it might be, I think points of this is that it could be private in terms of your transactions, could be zero gas fees, mainly just because you're actually hosting the kind of server itself. So you're actually paying like the monthly to manage. And then lastly, kind of not really having the rest of the chain kind of to worry about. So I think Sweatcoin has been one of our biggest kind of success in terms of Web 2 to Web 3 adoption. So Sweatcoin is a very, when I first saw this, I thought it would be very similar to StepN or kind of like a move to earn, but this is actually a Web 2 app. It's a free app in which you earn rewards by points, and you spend them on products or gift cards or things like that. And the app has garnered 100 million registered users. It's been around, and through this, they onboarded kind of these Web2 users to Web3, and most of them don't even know they're part of Web3. It created over 20 million wallets. Last time I checked, there's about 180,000 weekly active users on it, and this is a very sustainable model. And I think after what we've seen, whether it might be from the gaming side, like Axie or StepN, or even just from the whole industry, we are, Near does focus and want to build for the long term, right? We're focused on looking into see how we can onboard the masses, and to do that, I think you have to create a sense of security and longevity, and sustainable models is very, very important. So Sweatcoin, why is that sustainable? Their business model is not garnering income or revenue just through users, but it's actually done through working with brands, right? Marketing and kind of very traditional points of marketing, from working and partnering with Starbucks or any consumer brand products, and then providing ad service, ad revenue, and then kind of providing some value to users that earn points while they healthily walk. So this highlights some of our DAOs. I think the CellGP one is quite interesting here. So CellGP is kind of a league of sales, of going across and making the ownership a DAO. So that has been pretty large in terms of incubating kind of the sports and the technologies across. And then I think we do have an Orange DAO member as well within the Berkeley Haas blockchain group club. And so, I think you guys would be familiar, since that's pretty Bay Area as well. Within NFTs and gaming, so we do have, I'll highlight a game called Armored Kingdom, which was produced by, Mina Kunis, kind of the actress. And then we actually, this has garnered pretty strong attention. So we're pretty excited about that. And it's not just a game, but coming up with content IP as well as Few and Far, which is kind of our community-led marketplace. So, they're actually out of LA. So pretty easy to talk with and meet with if you guys have any interest or need any intros on that. I think that's the last slide. So kind of went through probably very quickly in terms of kind of just what Near is, as well as kind of our ecosystem, as well as kind of just, trying to touch points on kind of what we're looking to do, as well as here at the foundation. All right, so I'll stop sharing now and open it up. I believe, Coco, you had some.
Yes, I have some questions. So I will kick off the Q&A by asking question myself first, to take advantage of being the moderator. So let me put out my first question. So I know, so for blockchain, there is this trilemma, for example, decentralization, scalability, and security. So which component does NEAR focus on and differentiate itself?
Say that again. Like
so the trilemma of blockchain, which is the first is decentralization, the second is scalability, and the third is security, because usually you can't do all three. So some chain is very good at, for example, security, but like Bitcoin, but then there's no scalability. So which component does NEAR do the best or differentiate itself or focus on?
Great question. I would say, I would say scalability, from your point, might not mean from the tech side, but might be from the growth of user and adoption, right? So I would say NEAR is very decentralized. As you can see, we do kind of try to spread out kind of our, how entities are controlled and managed, as well as, how it grows, right? In terms of scalability from the tech side, obviously we're working and growing from that point. But I think in terms of, focusing on specific industries and zoning in and only going all in on that, I feel like we're also pretty decentralized from that point, where, obviously we're trying to figure out how we can provide the best solution. We do think we have, very strong tech and value adds from that point. And then security wise, there's been a few, I guess I would say, hacks or trying to cross our kind of our bridges and things like that, and in which both of them, the two of them that I'm remembering, the hacker actually lost their ETH that they had to lock into in order to bridge over. So I think we're also very focused and on that point as well. So I wouldn't say there's one specific, but obviously I think you're right. If you focus on one of the other two, for example, you can't scale as quickly as you want, right? So I think that is kind of the risk.
That's great. How about sharding? Because is NEAR the first protocol or the only protocol that tries to adopt the sharding?
I don't think so. I believe there's a few others that also do it. I think it's more of implementing and figuring how to scale it as well.
Okay, so sharding would help with the speed or scalability?
So in order to scale, like the amount of transactions you can do, you would need to increase more, I guess, have more and more shards kind of go across. So it takes the load off of kind of all of it being together in terms of making a decision. So I would say that's kind of, hence the breaking apart kind of the decision making makes it a little bit faster.
Does NEAR have any particular, focus when it comes to applications on the chain, like gaming or NFTs?
Yeah, so I currently lead gaming within kind of the NEAR ED, but obviously I think there's a few focus areas that I think are very interesting, and it's really dynamic in kind of how this changes. Obviously we are also within NFTs and marketplace. Obviously we have to touch upon infra to create the right onboard and offboard off ramps that users can utilize. So I would say, compared to a few others, we are maybe focusing with a few verticals, but I wouldn't say, we're completely committed into all and more focused on specific verticals, as well as figuring out kind of looking at the market and how it changes in dynamics. I do think we do have a very strong use case with the Web 2 to Web 3, and I think that is a strong vertical that we are focusing on.
When you say Web 2 to Web 3, can you elaborate a bit?
It looks like I froze in terms of the.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but in terms of Web 2, Web 3, so Web 2, Web 3 would be to onboarding kind of current Web 2, whether it might be projects or basically games or companies with a lot of users, and trying to figure out if there's any value adds that they can utilize blockchain and Web 3 with to come into Web 3. So that's typically what so it's not really starting from scratch, right? Not starting and creating a Web 3 native company and then just trying to get more users from there. We think kind of the masses currently are still within Web 2. So it's more figuring out what's the best way to, simplify and then just make the overall experience and the value adds that blockchain could bring and bring them into Web 3.
That's interesting. That's good to know. But is this something unique about Near, or your focus, or the other chains also are looking into this?
I'm
like
not sure.
Helping Web 2 companies extend into Web 3.
All right, looks like my camera failed. That's probably why my camera froze. So apologize for that. Yeah, so I would assume, other chains are looking into opportunities just to onboard more users as well. So yes.
Great. And so one question is there any particular challenge that Near has been trying to address when it's building out this chain and try to make it better?
Do you mean from the tech side or what do you
Either
mean?
tech side or business side.
Well, since I'm not leading the tech side, I won't talk about the tech side. In terms of the business side, I think it's tough to create real value adds and utility, and understanding what that could be for users as well as projects. I think in the last, crypto and blockchain is so new in the last few years, right? It's been real. I think what the first bull was kind of, I wouldn't say the first bull, but the large one 2017 till now, 5 years, and people are still trying to figure out what the real use case and utilities and value adds are, right? So I think that's probably the difficult point and creating that. So I think that's what, not just us, but most blockchain companies are trying to figure out. And, this is why it's fun and interesting.
So next question is, so how did you get into this industry? Because you were working with family office and also other projects before this. What made you, look into this industry and decide to work with the foundation?
Great question.
How did you get into this industry, or why did you choose to work for Near Foundation?
Great question. So I guess industry-wise, I think I got introduced about 5 years ago when I first came to Asia in Taiwan, and I worked at Foxconn. I led the corporate M&A group, and we did look a lot of tech. At the time it was like AR, VR, IoT, and then blockchain as well. So I just found it pretty interesting and fascinating. I would say I went through and played around and did a lot of ICOs, and from that time just kind of been more interested. And then it continued to grow as I moved on and worked at the family office as well, and did look into investments and from that standpoint into blockchain and crypto, and finally thought if I wanted to narrow and focus on a specific industry, I thought this was the one because it was just exciting. It's always changing, very dynamic, as we've seen with the news. Obviously, right now is probably not the best time in terms of kind of it being a bear market. But I think if you're actually entering the market and looking for opportunities, I think right now is a great time to build. And if you go to any conference, starting with, I think I went to NFT NYC earlier, mid this year. And from there to every conference I've been to, regardless of kind of what the asset prices are, right, or the crypto prices are, people who are funded are building and excited kind of what they're doing. So I think that's kind of, that's kind of the exciting part. And how I ended up at Near was the fact that, while, doing due diligence on the ecosystem as well, I found it actually, that they do have some advantages, as well as the fact that, didn't enjoy the whole founders ecosystem, right? I think Near is really focused on founders helping founders. If you guys heard of NearCon, that's their annual conference. This year was in Lisbon. I didn't go to one talk. I kind of talked to all the projects and partners throughout, and kind of just very excited. Most of the entrepreneurs, kind of the leads, are building not for the short term, right? They're not here to ride the bull market or anything like that. What they're doing is, they're just interested as well within the tech, and they're interested within the ecosystem, and they want to build something that hopefully is able to last a while, kind of for the long term.
for a foundation, is it similar to VC or corporate investment arm, or is it something in between?
Great question. So I would say from the foundation side, I mean, it's kind of weird because it's for the first time. I mean, we're not specifically looking for an ROI or, in terms of investment returns, right? Because it's a, nonprofit, our goal is to just grow the ecosystem and help and support. Corporate VC typically does look at from a strategic investment. You're looking at investment from whether it might be a return or strategic value into your own core business, right? And I think that's kind of the difference. Corporate VCs typically then is allocating a small amount of funds in which they invest into, early stage startups that would be strategically helpful or valuable within the core business from once they do grow or things like that. And so I would say, corporate M&As, one bucket, separate, where they're just looking to acquire or more growth stage or later stage companies. Corporate VC, probably very early. Most of the times that I worked with or talked with, these funds, most of the times they're quite early and probably won't be able to add a lot of value soon, right? But kind of from this nonprofit, which I think you do see a lot of from a blockchain perspective in terms of their goal is really not to make money. So in terms of for us, we're not looking to specifically invest into something looking for a 30x, right? So I think the intentions are quite clear, where we're seeing if, supporting certain projects, if they can help and garner more usability or access or, very strong use case, things like that. So I think it's mentality wise, I think it's a first time where I have had to think from a different angle.
So what would you recommend our alumni or students who are interested in joining, for example, foundation or protocol? Is foundation a good starting point if you don't, or alumni or student don't have a lot of tech background? Is it a place that you recommend?
Especially within this group, right? I mean, I would think majority of us are not tech backgrounds. Maybe some of you guys, we're the smart ones and double majored, right? Yeah. So I mean, just like if you did Silicon Valley or the tech industry, I mean, they need what? They need corporate finance, they need operations, they need strategy, right? They need accounting, which I think majority of Haas majors are, right? Consultants. So I think if there is interest into this space, I mean, there's utilizing your core background or experience, I think you're able to get, I don't think it's necessarily a foundation, right? But it's just any blockchain or crypto related industry in which you can kind of garner and utilize your skill set that you've experienced in the last few years. If you're a new grad, I would say, then you guys probably have more flexibility in terms of the roles and what you want to do. But I think as most Haas majors have experienced, the last first 5 years or the first 10 years of your, actual experience results in kind of the direction that you want or you can do, right? And that's probably why you guys probably do MBA, to kind of switch markets and industries.
So that's all for my question. I want to open the floor to all the audience. So feel free to ask questions, raise your hands, or just type in a question in the chat box. But let me end the recording first.